Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. Patriots Against CPS Corruption invites you to attend our March for Texas Children. DFPS has failed the families of Texas. The Texas Special Committee on DFPS has also failed to hear the parents and their children. Time to make your voices heard and surround yourself with those on the same mission as you. Join us on the March for Our Children, September 21st, 2022, starting at 1 p.m. at 701 West 51st Street, Austin, Texas, 78751. I've got a brand new guest on. I'm happy to announce I have Jacque Kent from Mecklenburg, North Carolina. And I'm so glad to have you on, Jacque, because we had talked several weeks ago about some of these players and some of the collusion that's been going on. And I want to talk about you first. What's been going on with you and your case?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's such a pleasure. I did enjoy speaking to you a few weeks ago, as you stated. It is just a roller coaster at this point. It's kind of almost taking it court date by court date. I don't know, with the more I expose this, is it going to keep my child away from me, or is it finally going to get my child back? So it's crazy. I mean, these judges, two have recused themselves in my case. I'm on the third one now. They're not accepting drug testing. They're not accepting any type of evidence that is clear child abuse and just medical neglect for my son with his disabilities. So it's awful, and it's
Mhm.
shocking. It really is.
And it should not be happening to you. You have all this evidence, and these judges are participating in child abuse. These
Correct.
judges are child abusers in black robes. In fact, that's a book written by my friend Kenneth Gottfried. Okay, you find that on Amazon. But
Definitely.
do you know why Henderson recused himself?
Yes. So after the first permanent child custody and support hearing, um, he was allowing a lot of unsafe, unsupervised visitation with my son and his father. And so that's kind of where it came in on my part. And I know what I did was wrong. I went against a court order
Mhm.
and I didn't allow visitation. However, that was just me protecting my son from everything that has now come true since he's had been in his full custody over the past 4 months. So, Henderson, I had actually put in a motion to recuse. At this point, I had represented myself for about 15 months straight. And I put in a motion to recuse, and he pretty much kind of passed it off to one of the most notorious, I guess you could say, judges, which is Judge Christy Mann of Mecklenburg. And she wouldn't even allow me to upload my evidence on Zoom. I was having some technical issues. And during that hearing, she wouldn't allow me to upload any evidence because I was having issues. So she just basically said, well, you have no evidence, so I'm going to dismiss this. So that was the first recusal motion gone. And then finally, I just was so fed up. I said, I'm just going to go for a civil rights, you know, Title 42 lawsuit against Judge Henderson. And little did I know that a couple months later, he had to recuse himself because of the lawsuit.
Interesting. Okay, so then how did Sean Smith come into this picture?
That is the question. I
Mm.
don't know. Let me rephrase that. I believe, honestly, that he was chosen for a reason, to take over my case. And it is because he's retiring soon, and he wanted to just absolutely retaliate and abuse me in every way he could possible.
And
And
your
that's
your
exactly what he
child.
did. And my
Yeah,
child.
and he's also a child abuser.
Yes.
Okay. And so do you know why he really recused himself?
No, he actually did not give. a single reason. He literally just, as I'm in Washington, D.C., speaking to Congress about this, he basically sent my attorney and the opposing counsel an email that just said, with I was just thinking about the case, and I think at this point in time, it's better if I just recuse myself. And
Hmm.
coincidentally, that was right after Chief Investigator Jody Barr had filmed his hearing, and I believe he got a little bit worried that all of this stuff would come out.
And that's all he stated in the email. He
Yes.
didn't. Oh, that's really lame.
Yeah, it was really surprising because at least Judge Henderson, he had to actually put in writing,
Mhm.
that the lawsuit was filed on this date by me and this is why he was recusing himself. Judge Smith just basically was like, I was just sitting around, thinking about this case and I'm just going to recuse myself. So it was probably the most just out of nowhere and shocking recusal.
Well, I can maybe help you shed some light on this that may
Yes.
help other people. Okay, so I did some digging. Okay, now Sean Smith is a 44-year-old judge, and, he's up for reelection in December because his term ends, and he's been in there 11 years. So anyway, um, okay, so you have to bear with me. I've got some paperwork here.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, he is a disgrace to, the state of North Carolina and Villanova University School of Law. Um, he was an assistant district attorney in Mecklenburg County District Attorney Office through October 2004 and 2010. So that's 5 years and 10 months. Then he became Mecklenburg County District Court Judge January 2011 to present. So that's 11 years and 8 months. Now, in their passing, believe it or not, the opposing attorney, they somehow crossed paths in there. Okay, in that time frame. Oh, and I'm also going to add he's a disgrace to Notre Dame.
Yes.
All right. It's a shame. I used to like Notre Dame. Now I don't. And Grazer Grazer Smith law firm. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm glad you're sitting down. Okay, now the people that follow Sean Smith, believe it or not, is Paige McThenia. Now there's a character here that's called Stephen D. Now he's in Charlotte and Union County lawyer. He says protecting your family, guiding your business, and defending your freedom. Stephen D. Could he be the alter ego of the Stephen DeCillis? Geez, but he goes by Stephen D. That's how he hides what's been going on with him. And we'll get into him in a second. Okay, when I saw Stephen D, I actually thought of a DJ, like Stevie D, the DJ. Okay. Now, we gotta put some type of humor in this, but
Exactly.
even though it's not very humorous because you're suffering because of it. A lot of people are suffering. I
Yes.
mean, good mothers such as yourself, as well as good fathers. And
Yes.
I would like to see more mothers come forward to talk to me, as well as good fathers.
Yes.
Um, okay, so there's also Matt Osmond. He follows him, and he's running for Superior Court. He actually is running for Superior Court 26B, and he has his election status up already. Okay, so he's ready to go. He's got his profile up. He wants to be elected. There's another story on him, but that'll be saved for another podcast. So, as we move along the paperwork here, okay. Now, Sean Smith was represented by Matt Arnold back May 2014 and in the appellate level. Okay, so he was represented by your attorney's law firm, and your attorney is a partner of. Okay. Now, irregardless that Matt Arnold defended Smith, you had no business being in that courtroom. technically, even no matter what your attorney is saying, even though she told you, oh, it's been a number of years, it's passed, it's okay now. It's never okay. That's the problem with Mecklenburg County, and it's just never okay. So,
Yes.
okay, Matt Arnold won that case for Smith. Okay. Now keep that in mind because we're going to move along to Tanya Grazier Smith, who is in matrimonial union with Sean Smith. Now, she's a family law attorney, board certified, and she also went to Texas Tech University Law School. Now, it's very interesting with her because, she's been around. Been around to a lot of law firms. This is kind of unusual. Now, I don't know if you know this about her, anything about her, because what I found was she had first, well, she worked at Hatcher Law Group, big deal. Then she went on to Cordell and Cordell from July 2009 to January 2012, 2 years and 7 months, where she practiced family law at this firm, which focuses on men's domestic litigation. Isn't that interesting? So
Yeah.
she's got that mindset. Okay. Now she was a partner there for only, well, we'll say maybe a year when she made partner. Now partners make a lot of money. You know, why would she leave?
Right.
I don't know. So where she went? She went to Arnold and Smith, family law attorney. She was senior family law litigator and made partner after exactly 1 year. She made it in 1 year. So she was a partner. Oh, I misspoke. She practiced family law at the firm of Cordell and Cordell, but she made partner after 1 year at Arnold and Smith. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
That was January 2012 to June of 2014. In this While she was in this firm, she became a board certified specialist in family law. Okay. Now, you know, I remember you telling me to back up a little bit when Attorney Cohen and you walked into that courtroom. Judge Sean Smith said, "Oh, Attorney Cohen, it's you again," or something to that effect. Do you remember? What did he say to her?
I believe his words were, it's Anastasia or Miss Cowan or something. It's very good to see you again. I'm very glad you're here in part of this case.
Oh, and this is why. This is why. Because here she was, Arnold Smith. Okay. Um, Now, oops, I'm sorry, that was Tanya's. Okay, we're still talking about that. However, you know, um, let me see here. She put Tanya Grazier Smith put all these highlights in on her career. Now, especially with Cordell and Cordell, this kind of bothers me that she focuses on men's domestic litigation. And why would you don't have to put that. She just could have put Cordell and Cordell. So, you know, but she did go in with Matt Arnold and Smith and was a partner for 1 year and then left. And so then August 2014, she went to Burt and Cord's law firm as a family law litigator and oversaw all family law litigation practices. Okay. And Tanya Smith also states divorce is not simple. You need a specialist. I think you need more than a specialist. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, more on her, more on the lovely, lovely wife. Now, believe it or not, she is a volunteer at the Mecklenburg County Bar from January 2008 to January 2013. She volunteered in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools through child literacy and mentoring programs run by the Mecklenburg County Bar. Do you see how they're all in bed together? Okay.
Yes.
However, she also worked as a pro bono attorney. I'm surprised.
Wow.
She served as a pro bono attorney advocating for representing victims of domestic violence cases.
Wow.
Why is she representing victims in domestic violence cases when her husband is handing over an infant to an
Yes.
abuser?
Yes.
Okay. This is the mindset that we're dealing with in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. Now, from January 2012 to present time, this is 10 years and 9 months. She's been a volunteer still at the Mecklenburg County Bar, and she's volunteer as needed in the Linking Lawyers Program, a mentoring initiative for young lawyers.
Oh,
Isn't that
geez.
okay? So she's okay. So now you've got an individual with a domestic violence mindset. Okay, this this Mecklenburg County bar, there's 5,700 plus attorneys. Now, their annual fee to belong there is $715 a year. For a non-member, it's $995 a year. So that's over a $4 million business. Now, you know what? The main question I think we all should ask is where's that money go?
Yes.
Where does that money go? Um, so, I just wanted to cover that, the Smiths, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I'm not talking about Brad and Angelina here. And we're not even gonna bring in Smith's hot dogs into the, equation, okay? So we've discussed the Smiths. Do you have any questions or anything that I think I can hopefully answer?
No, you shed a light on exactly what I suspected, and it's just now confirmed. And it actually terrifies me when you say that she is mentoring young attorneys, because
Mhm.
that is exactly what is happening. These corrupt attorneys continue the cycle by teaching them everything that they've done, and it's just that's why it's continuing.
It's continuing, and, Sean Smith, he's gonna run for reelection, you see, and, your attorney said, well, he's gonna run for ADA. Think they told you that. Okay, because
Yeah.
they're trying to smooth over what happened to you, your abuse. They are actually contributing to your abuse. How would they know he's running for ADA? I would think he'd run back for judge. Once a
Exactly.
judge, I mean, why would you take a step backwards? And, happy wife, happy life. She's running her law firm. She probably said to him, Sean, you've got this case with this Miss Kent, and, I would dump it. I would get out, and because you're running for reelection, and, you know, get out of there now.
Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. That was my suspicion from the beginning, because everything was just too perfectly in line, and then all of a sudden for him to do that, and he's really legally not even allowed to do that without some kind of reasoning behind it, and
Right.
that's even more disturbing.
Right.
Is
Yes. You're
yeah.
absolutely right, because they have to follow a certain guideline when they recuse themselves. It has to be very strict as to why
Yeah,
they're doing this. And he just does his own thing.
he does. He doesn't get in trouble. Well, let me rephrase this. He believes he's untouchable, but he's not.
No.
Um, because eventually it will come around, and the what he did to me and my entire family, especially my son that's suffering now,
Mhm.
is everything that I need to motivate me to make sure he never ever gets any type of um electoral votes in any type of government seat in Mecklenburg County. And if I have to stand outside of the Mecklenburg County courthouse every single day, that is what I will do to
Mhm.
protect families and children and protective parents that he has absolutely tortured.
Yes, exactly. And the strange thing is when he recused himself and you were back in court, he trots in, sits at the back of the courtroom right right by the CBS reporter. And he stares at Judge McThenia. Why? He wants to make sure she follows suit, because if she did the right thing and said, "Miss Kent, I can clearly see the evidence. I can clearly see the evidence of all this drug use and the measurements in your son's system. I'm going to overturn his ruling." If she did that, what would he do to her? And when she runs for judge, what would they do to her knowing that she overturned another judge's
Right.
ruling?
100%. 100%.
And, these players, they just, they're just marching to the beat of their own drum, and shame on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Again, have no relation to Brad and Angelina.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're gonna go on to Stevie D.
I love
Okay.
that.
Now, if you go on LinkedIn and you type in Stephen D, he'll come up. It says
Yes,
DeCillis Law Firm, right?
correct.
Now, I don't did you look at LinkedIn at all?
Yes, I'm on
Okay.
LinkedIn, so I did. After I believe after you had mentioned it, I had gotten on it because I wanted to see for
Oh,
myself.
good girl. Okay. So it says here he's a Charlotte and Union County lawyer protecting your family, guiding your business, and defending your freedom. How about that? Isn't that something? Okay,
Really?
now uh, he goes on to say that he has been running DeCillis Law Firm from May 2002 to present time. That's 20 years and 4 months. Okay. Now, maybe Steve D has a dual personality with attorney DeCillis, because that's far from the truth. Do you know he was disbarred?
Yes.
Okay, so he was disbarred, and I've got it here. It was time stamped July 2003. North Carolina State Bar was the plaintiff, and Stephen DeCillis the attorney. And it says here, this matter was heard on June 6th, June 7th, 2003, before a hearing committee of the Disciplinary Hearing Commission composed of Stephen E. Culbreth and blah, blah, blah. Then, if you skip down a couple paragraphs, it says, however, the panel unanimously concluded that the evidence introduced during the hearing warrants that the dismissal be made in conjunction with a letter of caution. The evidence showed a pattern of action by the defendant toward females that he came in contact with to be of a sexually aggressive nature. Although this conduct did not create a basis for discipline, what does that mean? It was
Yeah.
determined to be unprofessional and not in accord with accepted professional practice. Similar conduct in an attorney-client relationship would be the basis for discipline and could result in suspension or disbarment. Okay, so he was actually disbarred. I don't know why he's putting he was a lawyer for 20 years. And this is why he ran from the CBS reporter with his little backpack on. He looked like a fourth grader running down the street. And the CBS reporter is wanting a comment from him, and he's not even answering him because you know what? He's got a lot to hide. Now, isn't it odd in this document where they, discipline their own, but they don't use the terms domestic violence or sexual harassment?
You know what? You're exactly right. I didn't really put that together until you just said that.
And that
That's interesting.
yes, and this is what people need to know when you start digging. Now,
Yes.
also, when he says defending your freedom, get this. If anyone's sitting down, they need to sit down or lay down. I'm glad you're laying down, Jackie.
Yes.
Okay. So, defending your freedom, he says, if you are accused of crimes in Charlotte and Union County ranging from felonies, drug charges, drug trafficking, murder, manslaughter, rape, sex offenses, misdemeanors, and DWIs, isn't that a disgrace?
Wow. Well, I'm sure he would have firsthand knowledge.
Well, maybe, yeah, he should. He should, you know. He's a trial attorney who successfully litigated one of the first roadside strip search cases in North Carolina. See State versus Battle, 202 North Carolina. I think that's Appellate 376, 2010. Um, that's very interesting. However, what I also found is from the Charlotte Observer, this was written July 14th, 2017 by Michael Gordon. He writes in the title, he got caught sleeping with a woman he sued. Now Charlotte lawyer wants his license back. Okay, so this all proves he has not been a lawyer for 20 years and 4 months. Why would you, Stevie D, DJ, tell the public one thing? And the thing is, like he wants to, it says in this article, he wanted to resume his legal practice that began 24 years ago when he first joined the North Carolina bar. 4 years into his suspension, he's scheduled to meet in Raleigh with the Starboard disciplinary panel in October in hopes of having his law license reinstated. Okay, so this reporter tried to contact him, but with no response. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, well, what did he do when he was disbarred? What did he do with his life? Did he
Yeah,
work at Kentucky Fried Chicken? Did he go to
exactly.
Wendy's or Kmart where he should have been? Anyway, he says he was a business development specialist with various companies from 2013 to 2018, 5 years. um, but and it says he's traveled extensively through Charlotte, Mecklenburg. It's just very interesting that he's not listing the companies. You know, how much money did he make in those companies?
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
odd.
and see, and I think someone needs to be looking into his books. And also DeCillis law firm. Okay, 20 years and 4 months. Okay, there. Then now he's been disbarred. Now he's a business development specialist. Now, what had happened prior to all of this was he was an assistant district attorney, 9th prosecutorial district from 1995 to 2002. And then that's when all his problems started. And that was in Mecklenburg County, of course. Now, it just also a fun fact is that now this is when he was an assistant district attorney from 1994 to 1995, 1 year. Okay. He was a felony prosecutor of financial and property crimes. And he ran that business. And we don't even know what that business was or how much it made. Okay. So anyway, he was the first prosecutor in the state of North Carolina to qualify employee from the North Carolina Division of Forensic Tests for Alcohol as an expert in his field during a DWI trial in Superior Court. And he's the first prosecutor in Durham, North Carolina, to utilize stalking statute and indict a DWI as a felony. Now, also, he managed and organized complex district court schedules, which at times totaled 400 plus cases per day. Wow. Imagine the money rolling in.
Wow. Wow.
Um, yeah, this guy, he's got an alter ego of some sort, and he's got an ego. He's got a bruised male ego that needs to be stroked. Okay. So
Yes.
he also, as I looked further, he belongs to these groups. It's like F3, Waxhaw Site Q from April 2021 to present, and F3 SOBSAR, which is Search and Rescue Coordinator from May 2016 to present. It says, we all struggle. When you do, be strong and reach out. And this is for men helping men type of thing. It's a men thing. What
Wow.
is that? What does that do? See,
Yeah,
I didn't really have time to really get into that
that's
and dig.
interesting.
Yes, but you notice how it's always revolving around men. And I don't want to
Yeah,
knock men because I got a great dad, I've got a great second husband.
same
I'm
here.
saying there's great men out there that don't deserve to be
Absolutely.
bashed. Okay,
Absolutely. 100%.
so now, what do we do with all of that? we've got Paige McThenia now. And she does not display much. She's a district court judge, lead get this, she's a lead domestic violence judge.
I know. Yeah, the irony in that.
Yeah, how is this possible that
I know.
you know, she didn't do the right thing by you
No.
because she had Sean Smith staring her right in the eye,
Yeah.
you know? I wish people would think for themselves.
Yes.
She, you know, in Mecklenburg, she just is just doing what Sean Smith orders. And
Yes.
again, she knows he's up for reelection. And again, how we talked about what would happen to her career if she overturned that order to give your baby back like she should.
Right.
This also qualifies her to be a child abuser.
Yes.
And, how many people and how many children are in dire straits because of these judges' decisions?
Yes.
And wasn't your ex a domestic violence offender?
Yes. He actually went against, meaning he violated a 50B DVPO is what we call it here in North Carolina. So a domestic violence protective order. Um, I was awarded that on an emergency because he tried to run me and his own son off of the road. And then he started stalking us, me and my family. He assaulted my senior citizen, severely diabetic father, and he is up for child abuse. And luckily, by the grace of God, these charges were not supposed to be heard in criminal court until late December. Well, it happens to actually be next Wednesday. So, yep, in a little bit less than a week, we'll be in there filming and see what the criminal court judges do with 4 domestic violence charges against him.
And, you need to get that baby back. And also, who follows and watches Paige McThenia is again Matt Osman. But again, we'll save him for another podcast. Again, Sean Smith. Isn't that something? He's following her.
Of course.
And um, Stephen D. He's on there too. Stevie D.
Stevie D.
Stevie D. The fake news of not
Yes.
being an attorney for 20 years and 4 months. Okay, let's deceive
Yes.
the public.
Right, right. And he is, without a doubt, I can say just with personal experience over almost 2 straight years dealing with him. Unfortunately, he is one of the most corrupt and probably, I hate throwing this word out, but evil human beings I think I have ever encountered besides Sean Smith. He is a, a fraud. He has committed perjury himself. He allows his client to commit perjury in this case over and over. And he continues to go against my son's ADA rights and say that he has no disabilities. And that right there is a crime. And it's disgusting. It's despicable. I don't even
Right.
know how this attorney could be practicing law, first of all, after getting disbarred for 5 years, doing what
Oh,
he
longer. I think it was
did.
longer. I think it was like 12. I
Oh,
think it
was
was
it?
close to 12.
Oh, wow.
It takes them a long time to get that license back.
Yeah. He shouldn't be, that guy should not be practicing law whatsoever.
Mhm, mhm. And, what the whole collusion is that when you and your attorney walked in and Sean Smith said, "Oh, Attorney Cohen, blah, blah," you know what? He should have recused himself knowing that, "Okay, here comes someone from Matt Arnold's law firm. I'm just gonna recuse myself because there's a conflict of interest."
Right.
Simple. He could have just done that. That
Right.
that would have been the honorable thing to do. And you know how they call themselves honorable judge so and so,
Right.
and they're far from that. They're quite dishonorable.
They're dishonorable. There's no honor in their name or in their being.
No, not at all. And, you know, it's just, as I go through my paperwork here. God. I have so much paperwork on this case.
It's
Um,
crazy. It's
yeah,
just
it
there's
is.
every
Oh my
every couple weeks it seems like there's a new twist or something comes up or it's just really insane.
right, right. Because I think I had said before, who follows Sean Smith is Paige McThenia, Stephen D. They're all in this. And again, like I said, Matt Osman. And I think those were the players. Yeah, it's just kind of strange that they're all on each other's LinkedIn's. All right. So I went and made copies because I know once they hear this, they're going to be taking down their LinkedIn or changing it up, right?
100%.
Right.
Yes, you are exactly right.
But don't worry, I've got the originals.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And it's this Mecklenburg bar is perpetuating all this insanity.
Oh gosh. It really is. You can't, and it's even worse because like I've tried to contact Governor Roy Cooper, the lieutenant governor, the mayor, everybody in high powers I could in my state, and they're all 100% the same. And nobody wants to do anything about it. Nobody wants to stick their neck out and try and help, these innocent children who are dying and being abused every single day by these judges. And they just hide and they use the same "we don't have jurisdiction," you know pretty much line on every letter that they've sent me, and we can't get involved in it. And it's just so sad. It really is.
I agree with you completely. I would also like to know what is the connection with DeCillis and
Yes.
Judge Smith? There's something going on there.
Yes, for sure. For sure. It's a very
Um,
strange relationship.
right. And these judges claim to be, a lead domestic violence judge. They claim to, I don't know what, do the right thing when they're handing over an innocent baby to
Yeah.
an abuser. And this just totally doesn't surprise me with Mecklenburg County.
Right. Right.
And, you know, let me see here, does your partner, does your attorney Cohen know about Matt Arnold representing Sean Smith? Does she know that?
She was not at the firm, I believe was what she told me. She wasn't at the firm when that happened, when he represented him, but she's aware of it, and she is the one that basically said it shouldn't be an issue, or it wasn't an issue because so many years had passed. But I
She,
always assumed it was always an issue because that just makes
yes.
sense. The law is the law, and guidelines are guidelines. And you know, realistically, he should have just you're exactly right. He should have just honorably recused himself. And
Hmm.
he chose not to because he wanted to continue to make me suffer and make my child suffer.
Because he's on a massive power trip.
Yes.
A lot of these judges are sociopaths,
Yes.
narcissistic borderlines, and they're not doing psychological evals on judges. They should
Right.
be doing them. And
Yes.
also the public does not know who they're voting for. They may see Sean Smith or a beautiful picture of Osmond and they think, "Oh, he seems like a nice guy. I'm going to click that vote for him." And the public needs to be educated.
Yes.
And what these judges and attorneys take part in is traumatizing the parent. I mean, you've been traumatized, I've been traumatized, other mothers and fathers are going through PTSD
Yes.
because of the system,
Yes.
and the thing is, you got to be your own advocate.
Yes. 100%.
And I think you need to find someone to file a state federal investigation on these players.
Yes, that's what I'm in the pursuit of now. I got some connections through a Congress member from DC,
Mhm,
and it kind of went down the chain to me. And so that's what I'm in definite pursuit of right now. It's sad because I have went through the DOJ. I have filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office. I've reached out and filed complaints on everything I could
mhm.
possibly imagine. And they all come back with the same letter of it's either a jurisdictional issue, it's a because it's a personal matter, we don't get involved in personal litigation, and it's just it's insane. Nobody wants to be that first person that says, something isn't right here, and I'm this really does need to be investigated.
Exactly, you're exactly right, and, something has to be done about this now, not, a year from now, and the thing is with DeCillis, Stevie D, their paths crossed wi his path crossed with Sean Smith in the DA's department. So,
Right,
there's another connection,
right.
and, what's what this has happened, and like I said, this investigation needs to happen, because, this stuff has been going on in the past with other parents, but this is the first time they got caught. That we have revealed this information of this
Yes,
collusion and
yes,
conflict of interest. And the thing is, when they talk about the best interests of the child is a joke.
it is.
You know
It is. It really is. The wide discretion that they have to abuse their judicial authority
Mhm,
is mind-boggling. I mean,
mhm,
they could and they get away with it every time because that is all that the North Carolina statute states is the polar star is the best interest of the child standard. And
mhm,
what does that even mean? I mean, that could mean so many things to so many different people. And that's why these judges are doing exactly what they're doing.
mhm, and I'm glad you brought that up because it means different things. Of course, there's physical child abuse, sexual child abuse, sometimes you don't see bruises.
Right.
Sometimes it's child psychological abuse, which can be found in the DSM under
Yes.
V995.51. And these judges are doing this to so many parents and causing children to suffer child psychological abuse. And what I also found, it is noted in the American Psychological Association, written in 2014. Childhood psychological abuse is as harmful as sexual or physical abuse, that children who have been psychologically abused suffer from anxiety, depression, low self esteem, symptoms of post traumatic stress, and suicidality at the same rate, and in some cases at a greater rate than children who were physically or sexually abused.
That's incredible, but I believe it 100% because
Yes.
I have to sit here every week and watch my 3-year-old son cry his eyes out
Mhm.
before I even say a word to him. And it's like you can see I've never actually looked at somebody and saw, wow, this you can tell this person is either like really depressed or something's not right. Like they're enduring some trauma. And that's what I see all over on my son's face. And cries all the time, begs to come home, told DSS he doesn't want to go to his dad's again or
Mhm.
see him again. Um, and now he's full of drugs. And it's they're continuing to keep him there. And what's to say that in a couple more weeks, couple more days, maybe even 6 months, that he's doesn't end up dead because his father's driving under the influence of, drugs and alcohol. So it's very, very disturbing. And the psychological abuse is absolutely 100% the truth.
Right, I mean, say, maybe he's not slapping this kid around, but when you're
Right.
emotionally abused, even a doctor told me if you're being emotionally abused, that's worse than being hit.
Yes. Yes.
And I was shocked that my doctor told me about that when I was in my first marriage.
Makes
So,
sense.
you've got all this information, that needs to go somewhere, and you need to be heard and get this to the right person
Yes.
that can deal with these
Yes.
issues because, I'm sure other mothers that have endured this,
Yes.
and these judges have to be called out. They are child psychological abusers. They are
Mhm.
child abusers,
Yes.
and, your ex shows up in a courtroom wearing a plaid shirt ready to go for a hoedown
Right.
and hit the
Exactly.
next bar, and,
Yeah.
uh, you know, you're all dressed up, you look great,
Thank you.
and he and he's dressed like he's just, I don't know, ready to go out to the next bar.
It was very strange because I can say that that's the first time I've ever seen him do that. I don't know if he was maybe partying a little bit too much the night before and,
Mhm.
just kind of rolled out of bed, but
That's what he looked like, yes.
exactly. And yeah, it was pretty shocking. I didn't know what was happening there,
Right,
but
right.
yes, what people don't know yet, but will be released in the press probably at the next hearing, is that Judge Paige McThenia stated that so now I get to see Roman only every other weekend. And of course, last weekend was the first weekend that this happened, and he cried his eyes out the whole time because he
Oh,
didn't want to go
no.
back to his dad's.
Oh, no.
So it was just horrific. However, she stated the reason that she didn't give me back custody was because she doesn't believe my psychological evaluation that I had by Dr. Lisa Long um, is really displaying everything, or that she didn't somehow have all of the court documents before she conducted my evaluation.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, so she said that she can't really give it full weight in evidence and credibility.
She's
So
wrong.
I have to do yeah, so I have to do another, and I just paid $5,000,
Yes.
and now I have to pay another 5,000 to do a second one by a different psychologist because I passed with flying colors and she didn't like that. And
Right.
she had to have some little bit of wiggle room to just say one little excuse, and she ran with it. And so she's saying that she doesn't even all that time and money just wasted.
Oh, and that's, I think if you go to appeal that, that's gonna take longer, but, she's
Exactly.
just perpetuating the false narrative that Sean Smith put in place,
Exactly.
and
100%.
and this triangle between Smith, DeCillis, and this law firm that, Cohen's partner of, you know,
Mhm.
um, th your legal team should not fail you. They
Yeah.
should be, uh and the thing is, as far as a judge to say, "Well, I'm not gonna let your psych eval go because that psychologist didn't get to read court records." You know what? Psychologists don't read court records because they're not attorneys. They're just
Exactly.
there to ask you questions to see how normal you are.
Exactly. That's
So,
exactly right.
yeah, it's just, I think they're getting caught. They're getting caught in their
They are.
own little web of lies. I mean,
Yeah.
a
And
disbarment.
they know this is gonna break wide open, and
Yes.
they're getting nervous, so they have to do small things, and they have to scratch each other's backs and, do everything that they can do to protect one another so they can stand as a united force. But
And yeah, yeah.
not gonna happen.
See, the thing is that concerns me because this is what happened to me, is the judge, as well to you, made you a non-custodial parent, which
Yes.
in turn, you have to pay him, the dirtbag, child support.
Yes, that's what I'm waiting for next. That will be at the next hearing. So,
Which that should never, none of this should be happening. Okay. So
yep,
this is what they do. I'm sure you've heard of the Title IV incentives, Title
yes,
4D. Okay. So, and a lot of people don't know what that is. It's a $1 billion business within these states. Okay. So they may collect 66 cents on a dollar
right.
of every dollar paid in child support. So they're making a lot of money. Where that goes, apparently goes to grants, probably back in the judge's pockets, to other places. And they're using you because you're working, and I bet he's not.
No, actually, it's the opposite. I'm not working because I'm used to taking care of Roman all day, full
Mhm,
time. And I started homeschooling him. And, with his disabilities, he also has therapy 3, sometimes 4 times a week, every week.
mhm.
So that was my main job before Judge Smith took him away. So my ex has always worked.
Mm.
However, he's worked 15 different jobs or somewhere around there in the past 3 years because he gets fired and terminated from every single one he works at.
Now,
So, yeah.
what was his psych eval? Did they make
So
him do it?
he No, but Judge McThenia, this last hearing, when she said I had to redo it, she said that he had to do one too, but she never really like set a date or like a time frame. So
Mhm,
it's just kind of up in the air. And judge, not one, has reprimanded him for his unfitness as a parent.
mhm,
But they'll put me on the stand all day long and abuse me and
mhm,
defame me and say that I'm delusional for taking my son to a bunch of different doctors to get his diagnosis and treatment plan, and they just say nothing to him.
mhm.
He's the perfect parent, an
Well,
addict,
right?
everything in the mix.
Well, I
So,
mean, and look what you're dealing with. These
yeah.
judges and DeCillis are massaging his little bruised male ego.
Yes.
That's
Ye
why he's getting away with all of this.
yes. It's the truth. It's the
And
truth.
as we go back to Stevie D's businesses, I mean, someone should look into what businesses he was running. Some advertising, I don't know, whatever. How much money was that pulling in?
Yeah.
Can we see the books on that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
there's
I'm
things.
sure he'll have his time for sure. He'll have his consequences.
Well, and the thing is, you know, I believe him to be misogynistic, narcissistic, and psychopathic. He's gotta
One
be.
Yes. 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 There's no doubt about that.
And even in my case with my judge, same thing. They were both narcissists. I still believe the, opposing attorney was a psychopath. He never blinked. Did you know
Whoa.
that sociopaths don't blink? If you go on YouTube,
Yeah.
look
I will
up,
have to do that.
I think it's called the psychopath blink or something like that. Do sociopaths blink? You'll find it.
I've gotta
Uh,
see that. That
yeah,
is very interesting.
yeah, because I've looked his attorney in the eye and questioned him on things, and he just doesn't blink.
Oh, that's creepy.
It is creepy.
Yeah, that would
'Cause
terrify me, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah.
I'm definitely gonna see if DeCillis blinks.
Yeah, yeah. Because I went up, because I was in superior court arguing, and I went up to the opposing, after we were done, and or actually before we went on, and I said, "What would you do if your wife was doing this to you? What would you do?" And he kinda looked at me something broke through, like he had 1 second of empathy,
Yes.
and then he turned into a cold psychopath and just shook his head and walked away. Because
Wow.
after all, I'm the crazy one. They always call you crazy.
Absolutely. That's their favorite word to use in the court system.
Right. See, because when you are knowledgeable and a knowledgeable pro se, they're
Mhm.
calling you crazy because you know what they know and they don't
Yeah,
like it.
they don't like it. They don't like it at all.
See, and I'm so glad you came onto this podcast to shed light on all of this and to give hope.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, that I couldn't have done it without you as a platform, and I really appreciate that because the more this gets out into the public, the more, you're exactly right. It's hope and it's, just getting this exposure out. And that is it seems like such a simple thing to do, but it's actually so incredibly difficult just to reach certain people and get this as a national exposure going.
Mhm.
And you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint, unfortunately.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I'm going to do whatever I can. As you mentioned earlier, I am part of several different social media group of a lot of women in my area that are in mine and mostly worse situations than me. So um, I'm the one in the spotlight right now, so I've got to help as many people as I can and just be an advocate and travel back and forth to DC and just keep doing what I can do to stop this and to end this and to save children's lives and
Right,
parents, get them out of jail, you
right,
know and that should never even be an option. If you
right,
have evidence that you're in criminal contempt and you have solid evidence, as I do, that validates your decision making, you should never that jail shouldn't even be on the table.
right,
And unfortunately, that's what's actually just their go-to now
right,
because they want to just keep everybody quiet, especially women, and call them crazy and
right,
incarcerate them, and that's that.
right.
And it's a disgrace.
I
But
believe I believe, Sean Smith put a woman in jail for baptizing a baby.
she did, or he did. Yeah, he
Oh
did.
my goodness.
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
It's like, I if I was the judge, I'd be like, "Well, I'm glad the baby's baptized, let's move on." Okay? But, the horrible moral to the story, and I won't keep you all afternoon, but had you hired Stephen DeCillis, none of this would be happening right now.
That is so amazing that you said that because I can tell you that we probably say that once a week in my household.
Mm,
Those exact words. The sad thing is if I had DeCillis, you're exactly right. And it's like nothing to do with like hierarchy or how well you're known. It's just all about this, who has connections to who in this little, like you said, triangle in this little pod, and who can work to support that group, and whoever is in it and they're going to win.
right. And this is all going on throughout Mecklenburg and other counties,
Yes,
and I'm I'm sure, I'll have you back on again for an update,
absolutely. Anytime.
most definitely, and so, don't jump off, okay?
Sure. Yeah, no problem.
Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling of Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Jacque and other amazing guests. Thank you, Jacque.
Thank you so much. I heard it on my